Alright, so on the topic of trig ratios, so trig ratios, they're useful to find not only missing sides, but to find missing angles as well. So the trig ratios are very important in trigonometry. For the persons who remember when we had the online classes, we use the trig ratios to find angle of elevation and angle of depression. We use it to find the length of missing sides and all of that. So the trig ratios. So as we said, we have SOH, CA, TOA. So S is for sine, C is for cosine, T is for tan. So we have sine of theta is equal opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine of theta is equal adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent of theta is equal opposite over adjacent. So we have sine of theta is equal opposite over hypotenuse. We have cosine of theta is equal adjacent over hypotenuse. And we have tangent of theta is equal opposite over adjacent. Now, when we're looking at the trig ratios, the reason why the trig ratios are, because I did not get the work. Alright, so guys, I'll respond to your messages shortly. Let me just see if I can get you as much as the trig ratios as I can right now. Alright, so trig ratios. So the trig ratios, they're good for finding missing angles and missing sides. I'm going to show you the calculator. So the trig ratios now, they're useful for not only right angle triangles, but any triangle really. But let me show you how they work. So for the trig ratio, what happens is that you have an angle theta. So let's say you have your angle theta. Alright, so the trig ratios, we mainly use them for right angle, but I mean, yeah. So we have SOH, TOA. So you have a right angle triangle. This is our angle theta. So this is the angle we're interested in. So look at what happens now. Since this is theta, we're going to try to find where the opposite side is, where the hypotenuse is, and where the adjacent side is. So all we're concerned about is opposite side, the adjacent side, and the hypotenuse. So we use trig ratios for right angle triangles. So this is how it works now. So you have your opposite, so the sides we're concerned with, if you realize opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. Those are the three sides that we use. We don't need any other side. So hypotenuse, it doesn't change. It's still the longest side of the right angle triangle. So no matter what, so we know that right here, which is our diagonal line right here, this is going to be our hypotenuse. So this is the longest side. This is the hypotenuse. So we can label it as the hypotenuse. So that leaves us with two more sides, which are the adjacent and the opposite side. So how do we find the adjacent or opposite side now? So opposite, as the name suggests, is the side of the triangle that is opposite from theta. The adjacent side is the side that is attached to theta. So it's right beside theta. So opposite side, which one would be opposite to theta now? Is it this side or is it this side? Top, so let me say, is it the height or is it the base? Guys, you can comment in the chat and let me know. Which side is opposite to theta? Guys, which side is opposite to theta? Guys, class is over here. Alright, so the opposite side to theta obviously is the side that's directly across from theta. No, it's not the base. Because remember, opposite, if you're on the left hand side, the person who is opposite to you would be to your right. And if you're on a house top, the person who is opposite to you is going to be on the ground. So the opposite side from theta is going to be directly across from theta. So it's going to be the height. So the opposite side is going to be over here. So that leaves us with only the adjacent side. So the adjacent side now is going to be right down here. So it's connected to the angle. So remember we said the adjacent side helps to form the angle. So since this is the hypotenuse, it helps to form the angle as well. But right here would be adjacent because it's where it helps to form the angle. So the angle is formed right here. So this is your adjacent side. So with this triangle, we've identified all three sides. So this is the opposite side, this is the hypotenuse side, and this is the adjacent side. So I'm going to draw another triangle, and you're going to tell me where opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse sides are. Alright, so as usual, you know the hypotenuse is the longest side, so this is going to be the hypotenuse. So now we're left with finding the adjacent side and the opposite side. And guys, sorry about the whiteboard. I was trying to get it today to work, but what's going to happen is I'm going to need a second device. So I have a second device, so I'm going to practice setting it up tonight, and then hopefully by Thursday we'll be able to get the whiteboard. Alright, so now where's the adjacent side on this triangle? Where's the adjacent side? Remember, adjacent side is connected to the angle, so it helps to form the angle. Where's the adjacent side? Is it the height or is it the base? Adjacent side is connected to the angle, so this is our angle here. So these two sides form the angle. So therefore, the height is the adjacent. So this is our adjacent side. Yeah, correct, Daniel. So this is the adjacent side. So up with the circle. Yeah, so that's good, Shani. So that's the adjacent side. And now the opposite side. So we have the hypotenuse and we have the adjacent. So the opposite side is just going to be the side that's directly across. So remember I was saying if you're at top, then the opposite is going to be the bottom. If you're to the right, opposite is going to be to the left. So down here, this is our opposite side. And trust me when I say that's the hardest part of this topic. So if you can, yes, at the base. So that's the hardest part of this topic. So if you can identify which side is opposite, which side is adjacent, which side is hypotenuse, that's the hardest part of it. Alright, so good. So now, I hope you guys have a calculator. So we're going to do a bit of calculator work. So I hope everybody should have them calculators by now. You can probably use a phone as well, but it's preferred if you take a calculator. I mean, you're going in grade 10, you're going to be doing a lot of CSEC work, so a lot of calculations. Alright, so calculating, we're at the second objective where we speak about calculating angles. So calculating angles using sine, cos, and tan. Alright, so sine, cos, and tan, they're a shortening way of saying sine, S-I-N-E, cosine, oh no calculator. Alright, you can use a phone. You can definitely use a phone. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to show you how to use a calculator to calculate these, which is fairly simple. So Alexia was really good at this the last time, so if you watch over the video and ask me and you still don't get it, you can ask Alexia. Alright, so now sine. So let's say you have sine of 30 and you want to calculate sine of 30 to find out what is the value of sine of 30. Because when you're doing the trig ratios, a lot of the times you're going to be asked to calculate things like sine 30, because you know your theta. Your theta in this case, I think I forgot to say, theta is an angle. So since theta is an angle, what you have to do is you're going to use this angle to find a value that's going to help you in calculating the sides. So we're going to get into all of that, but I just want to show you how to use a calculator to calculate sine 30. Can anybody tell me what sine 30 is? We did it a couple times some time back. Sine 30. Anybody remembers? Put it in a calculator and see what you get. No? Alright, so sine 30. So this is how we find sine 30. So I hope you can see my calculator. Alright, so let me turn it on. So my calculator is on. So pardon the blurriness. So to find sine 30, I'm going to press the sine button, which is right here. So I press sine. I'm going to press 30. 3, 0. Then I press my equal sign, which is down here as enter. And it gives me the value of a half. So therefore, sine 30 is equal to a half. So did anybody else work that and not get the half? It's blurry. I really need to get a different device. Alright, so this is how it works. Sine 30 is a half. Alright, so now let's look at cos 30. Let's see what cos 30 is. We're going to calculate it using the same principle. Can somebody tell me what cos 30 is? Work it out and tell me what cos 30 is. Do that over, please. Alright, so all we're doing is sine 30. You might be given instances where, you know, when you calculate down everything, you're going to be given the angle is 30. So you want to say, alright, what is sine 30? This is going to help you in finding the missing side. So you want to say, what is sine 30? So sine 30 is easy to find. All you have to do, you have a calculator. You're going to press the sine button. You're going to put 30 in it. And you press equal, and it gives you a half. So if your calculator is like mine, it gives you fraction, but you can calculate it to decimal to get a half. So sine 30 is a half. Now we're going to look at cos 30. So what's the value for cos 30? Can somebody send it in the chat? What's cos 30? Cos 30. Alright. So let me do cos 30 to show you. So cos 30, same procedure. We press the cos button. Press 30. Equal. And it's going to be root 3 over 2. Let me convert that to a decimal to see exactly what it is. So that's 0.866. So cos 30 is 0.866. And similarly, yeah, so that's good, Devisha. So that's good. Similarly, if you're doing tan 30, what's the value for tan 30? Tan 30, you're going to do the same thing. You press the tan button. Then you press 30. And you equal it, and you get root 3 over 3. Let me convert that to a decimal. So the value is 0.577. So tan 30, 0.577. So then that's how it works. So that is the easy part. So that's how it works. So now we've identified how to find the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse sine. And also we find how to calculate sine of the angles. So we've completed 2 of the 3 objectives that we wanted to complete. So yeah, so that's good, Devisha. So we completed 2 of the 3 objectives. So now we're on to the 3rd objective. I hope we have enough time. If we don't have enough time, I'm begging you for 5 minutes. So I can do an example and I can give you something to do so you can practice on your spare time and ask questions if you have difficulties with it. So sine 30 is a half. Cos 30 is 0.866 and tan 30 is 0.577. Alright, so now how these starter questions work, how you get the 30. I just came up with the 30. I'm saying, for example, let's say the angle is 30. So I came up with the 30. It wasn't, you know, let's say it's just given in the question. Alright, so now in this case now, I'm going to do an example. So I want you guys to follow me. So if you guys are doing something different, just pay attention right now. I'm going to do it in 30 seconds. So I just need a full attention because it might get a little tricky because I'm doing an actual question. So these are the type of questions you might see on CXC. Alright, so you have your right angle triangle. You're given an angle. The angle is 40. Let me write it right now. So the angle is 40 degrees. So you guys are seeing that, right? The angle is 40 degrees. I hope you can see it properly. So the angle is 40 degrees. And let's say they give you that the height of this structure is 5 centimeters. So they give you the angle of 40 degrees and you're given the height is 5 centimeters. They ask you to find what is the base. what is the length of the base. Alright, so naturally when you look at it, you're going to say, but, I mean, they just give you an angle and they give you the side. How can I find the base? Alright, so finding the base is easy. Sir, when you put it back in the calculator, you press... No. I press an equal sign. So when I put it into the calculator, I press an equal sign. But this is a type of question that they're giving CXC. So it's not really worth a lot of marks, but the principle and the foundation of this is going to be useful for future topics. So I just want you guys to pay attention. Alright, so the angle is 40 degrees. And you have the height of 5 centimeters. They ask you to find what is the base. So what we're going to do now is, or what I like to do, I say, alright, this is a SOHCAHTOA question. So alright, SOHCAHTOA. So when I write SOHCAHTOA, that means I'm going to use one of these ratios. So either I'm going to use the sine ratio, or I'm going to use the cosine ratio, or I'm going to use the tangent ratio. So looking at it, we're going to say, alright, this is my angle. So what we're going to do, we're going to label the sides. We're going to label where the hypotenuse is. We're going to label where the adjacent side is. And we're going to label where the base is. Alright, so hypotenuse, is the longest side. We know that this is the hypotenuse. So we don't have to worry about that. Now we need to find where the opposite side is and where the adjacent side is. So remember, when we spoke about opposite, if your angle is at the top, the opposite angle is at the bottom. If your angle is at the right hand side, your opposite angle is to the left. And that's how it works. So now, we know this is a hypotenuse. We know the adjacent side helps to form the angle. So what forms the angle? So these two sides form the angle. But since up here is the hypotenuse, then down here has to be the adjacent side. Alright, so now we have the adjacent, so the opposite side is obviously going to be over here. Since we have the hypotenuse, we have the adjacent, so the opposite side is over here. Alright, so now how we know which ratio to use now? We're going to say, alright, we have the angle, and we're going to look at which two sides. So we're going to say, which two sides do we use in this question? Alright, so we're given 5 centimeters, which is the opposite. So we know we use the opposite side. So alright, so we need opposite. Alright. And they're asking us to find the base, and the base is the adjacent side. So we're using opposite and the adjacent side. So since we know we're using the opposite and the adjacent side, that's OA. So which one of the ratios uses O and A? Let's look at it. Which one of the ratios uses O and A? If you said TOA, then you're correct. This one uses O and A. This one uses A and H and O and H. So this is the ratio we're going to use. TOA. So we're going to use TOA to find it. So let me say, therefore, we use TOA. So using TOA now, we have theta. Theta in this case is 40 degrees. So we're going to say tan of 40 is equal to opposite. What's the opposite side? Opposite side is 5. 5 over adjacent. What's adjacent? The adjacent side is x, because we don't know what the adjacent is, so the adjacent side is x. So now we want to find this x. So we have everything else we need. We want to find x. So we can find x by doing cross multiplication. So this is how I normally do cross multiplication. So I'm going to say x times tan 40 is equal to 5. And then to find tan 40, I'm going to use my calculator. Guys, I really wish everybody was here, but at least there's a recording so they can watch it over. So I'm going to say tan 40. So when I say tan 40 equal to 0.839. So I'm going to have x times 0.839 is equal 5. And we know whenever we're doing linear equations, we want to find x. So to find x, we're going to divide by the coefficient of x, which is all of this number. So we're going to have x is equal 5 divided by 0.839. So 5 divided by 0.839. So therefore, x is equal 5.959. So the base is 5.959 centimeters. And that's how we calculate it. So I'm gonna write down the process behind it really. So I'm gonna give you the steps. And it's not really steps, it's more of like a process. So I'm gonna give you what the process is, and then I think that will be our class, and I'm gonna give you one in the group. So the process is to identify the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse sides. And guys, you can go and rewatch this video. I'm not going to delete it until about late tonight. So you find the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse side. That's the first thing. Then, the second thing, identify which two sides you need. So identify the two sides we will use. Then the third thing now is find the ratio that has the two sides. Find the ratio. And guys, if there's not a ratio for the two sides that you find, you need to check it over. There's always going to be the ratio. So find the ratio that matches the two sides. Then you're gonna solve for the unknown side. So that's all the steps. So first step, identify opposite and adjacent and hypotenuse side. Identify the two sides we will use. Then you're going to find the ratio of the two sides. So the ratios are tower. And then when you find the ratio that you will use it to solve for the unknown side. And it's that, I would say, simple. It's that manageable. So guys, I have a class now with 9Love, so I'm going to go over there to 9Love, teach them the same concepts, and the video is going to be here, so if you want to rewatch it and ask me anything, then you can do that. I'm going to send the question in your group, so you guys have a good day, and